In particular, when I first made the decision to go to the shelter, I lived in a big, beautiful home. My husband had a lucrative job, and going to the shelter was very much a struggle because, here I had to admit to people that my life wasn't perfect and that my marriage wasn't perfect. And I had to take my 3 children out of their home and move to, a building that was locked and, where I knew that we would be safe, but I wondered how that would affect the children. So it was really a tough decision to make. But when I did, I will never forget the very first night being in the shelter and my young daughter saying to me, "Mommy, I feel really safe here." Wow. And the children went right to sleep rather than me having to lay with them and all that sort of thing. And I realized at that point that what the shelter was giving to me wasn't just a space or food or, a roof over our heads. It was a new start. It was a new beginning, and it was just the support that the children and I needed to be able to give me that leg up to be able to leave the abusive relationship that I was in.
Do you experience domestic violence and also other scenarios in your life where sexual assault was involved, and then the legal system and the police also? So you have a lot of insight into this. So women who are going through this, what would your overall message to them be for those watching?
I'm always careful with the messages that I give to women because I don't, I want women to be able to depend on the court system. I don't want women to not report because our court system has failed. Right. I want our court system to improve. So, but I do say that if you decide to go to police and you decide to report and you decide to go through with the court process, to really make sure that you have all of your supports in place and people that you can depend on and rely on, and not to do it alone.
I started out actually going to the services for Muskoka Very Sound Sexual Assault Services when I was much younger. I survived a lot of, I was raped and I was also sexually abused as a child. So I went through their program, which is wonderful. They have the groups, they have the individual, and all through that. And then I guess it was year and a half ago, I think, that they approached and asked if I would be interested in being a mentor. And I was very excited at the prospect. So I went through the training. It was like a 40-hour training that we had to go through. I think there was about 10 of us. And obviously because you were there. Yes. Then we started in on the mentoring. And so, as you know, we mentor women that have been abused, but for whatever reason, sometimes the programs that they offer at the office aren't available. Somebody who works 9 to 5, has kids they need to put to bed, all that kind of things, to show up for individual counseling or group counseling is pretty difficult. So we meet the women when and where is comfortable for them. Sometimes it's a coffee shop, wherever it is we meet, and we just sit and chat and go over, just talk about some of the things that we did to help cope with triggers and difficult things that were going on in our life that come up from being abused.
You talked a bit about boundaries. You have self-care or coping mechanisms, like you talked about your toolbox.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, we talk a lot about grounding. I like to I always say to them, I'm going to give you like 10 different suggestions and you use what works for you, because what works for one person doesn't work for another. Right. So, there's journaling, there's, I have a native background, so I do a lot of smudging, and just showing them different techniques that they can try. Kind of like, trying out different sports. I tried out soccer, tried basketball. I'm too short for basketball, it didn't work, but I was good at soccer. And it's the same thing with coping strategies, different personalities, different suggestions.